All right. I will call this meeting to order. This is the Dunn County Broadband Taskforce meeting on May 4th, 2023 at 1:03 p.m. I guess to the first thing before we get into our agenda, I mentioned it quickly. Holly Bembenek, did it right, is going to be joining us as a representative replacing Dan Lytle. She works in the foundation with CVTC and is connected with a lot of the businesses within Dunn County in the area, and also works at a higher education institution, so is involved with the aspects of how broadband can impact the students within that area as well. So welcome, Holly. All right, next on our agenda says approval of minutes. Still not sure exactly how formal I need to be with that, but
I'll make a motion to approve them.
all right.
I'll second it.
All right, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, ayes have it. Moving on. I grabbed the agenda. Now I gotta find it in my browser here. I have a few things open. Anyway, I'm just gonna move on to our kind of work items as I remember them. If I miss something, please correct me. So sharing that PowerPoint with you, and just a reminder of the vision statement that we had put out there. And so last we had talked a little bit about outreach and surveys and how that would get taken care of. This was kind of the notes that we had there, and then I had a bunch of takeaways that I had to do at the end of that meeting, and part of that was to start preparing our survey. So I shared with you link of what that looked like. So the image on the screen there then is the postcard that will be mailed out to it's turned out to be about 5,000 residents. So ultimately what we did, the criteria there, we struggled, we went back and forth, spent way too much time, and then just decided to you know what, the more the better. So what we did is we took that map that I had shared before that had the areas that were covered by a grant, and we excluded any addresses that fell within those areas. And then we also excluded any addresses that existed within a municipality. So that is essentially, I don't want to be wrong in what I define as a municipality, but the city of Menominee, Village of Elk Mound, Village of Colfax, Village of Boyceville, Village of Ridgeland, Wheeler, and
Prairie Farm?
Prairie Farm is not in.
Downing.
Is Downing another one?
Yeah,
Yep.
Downing's right on the edge with St. Croix County.
Oh, I got a map sitting right next to me. I could have looked at it. So our land information officer is the one who does that. She's well aware of kind of the definitions of all of that, with the assumption being that those more highly populated areas are likely covered, and in some cases we knew that they were. So that was just to kind of narrow down how many specific addresses we want. So there's areas that we know we're sending this survey to that are likely covered. But it's you could spend all day guessing. And so we just went forward with that list. And it doesn't hurt to survey people that do have it, right? Both, whatever answer we get to that survey is going to be a valuable one. So that is what we did. We also did find, and I'm going to try and get it on the map, the advertised coverage areas for the internet service providers. That data is out there. That is some of that data that is based on census block, though. So that's one of those data sets that if one person in that census block is covered, it's considered covered. So we kind of looked at some of that and said, you know what, let's just throw it out and get what we get. So like again, this is what that broadband survey, the postcard looks like. And then there's the link to the online one there, and they're all on that website I shared with you as well, which is another feedback item that I had, is to kind of resurrect the Dunn County Broadband website. So that is out there. I believe I shared that link with the group. So those are both out there. Technically, you can take the survey right now. It'll take results. We just haven't told anybody about it yet. And like I say, if you've looked through those, well, the postcard has already been printed. So, and Terry, thank you so much for identifying a misspelling of Shabarden. Literally, your email came within minutes of me getting the email for final proofing and printing there. So we were able to save that particular issue. So the postcards are, as I said, they're printed. They're at the printer. They're being printed. The company L&M is actually ready to go. So they had originally told me I had to have them in by May 3rd in order to get them out by May 15th. They emailed me today and said that they're ready to go.
Nice.
So we can move up our deadline or our timeline if we're interested. The other piece of that I had shared in my email is there is a listening session for the governor's broadband task force at Stout on Monday. I emailed them as soon as I found out about it and said, hey, can I be there and survey people that show up? So they've given me approval there. They actually put me on their agenda to talk about it. So so that's good. And hopefully we got the word out to be able to get some people there. I know I just spoke with some people at Stout and their student community, and they're going to be, I assume, attending. They didn't know about it, even though it was at Stout. So that's going to be going on, and I did want to take advantage of that to survey people. So we will certainly be doing the online survey early. Does anybody have any problems with sending out the postcards early?
I think it's a great idea.
Yep.
All right.
Cool.
We'll get
That's
them out.
fine.
We'll get those out in the beginning of next week.
One question that I had, if I may interrupt here.
Yep.
Is do you want me to write an article for the Messenger and the Tribune that the surveys are ready and we want people to take the survey?
I would love it.
Okay.
Yep, that was my next
Is that a trick,
slide.
is that a trick question, Leanne?
No, I didn't think so, but
Yeah. I think the better we can hear from people about this, the better the results, and the more we know. So these are a couple of pieces of, I guess, marketing that I am planning on using. The one on the left is a PDF, it's essentially intended to be printed on 11 by 17. You can hang it up on a wall. You can put it wherever you need to try and encourage people to do that. I might actually, now that I look at that, have maybe change around the colors a little bit so that it doesn't, people don't have if a black and white version for people if they do want to do that. But and then the one on the right is kind of what we're going to put on social media, as really just we'll do both of them likely on social media, but one of them is just to let people know that that postcard could be mailed out to them and to look for it in their mailbox.
Can you send those materials to all of us on the task force? Because we could distribute them also through our networks too.
Yes, will do. And that's that long email that I sent earlier in the week said I was going to do that. So yep, we've just been kind of working on getting this stuff created and out there. And that's the intent. And if there is any other materials, like if there's another thing, I have staff here that can create some of that marketing type material. But if you're able to do it yourself, feel free. And then, yes, the co.dunn.wi.us/broadband website, it puts some information kind of about the status of the broadband or minutes, and some of that work is out there, as well as the map and link to the survey. So if you are somewhere, you can get that. You can share that web page. So Leanne, if you're going to put that in print, I would say to link to the broadband website well, I guess it's up to you, but the URL to the survey isn't great. So
Right. Yep. Just I'll put that in there to go to the broadband website.
Right. And our county communications consultant going with Doug Mell is also going to be writing a press release. So if that's something you want to use, Leanne, that'll be coming out soon. I told him he had till the 15th, but now I have to come back and tell him otherwise. So I don't know about the timing on that, but that's kind of the status as far as marketing materials are concerned. Like I said, if you have any other thoughts, ideas, ways to get that out, I am open. I had our county manager send the same email I sent to you out to the town chairs. I believe she did. I don't know. Leanne, did you get one from her?
Not yet, I don't think.
Okay.
No.
All right. I'll follow up with her. Just to kind of get that and even have that marketing material there. But there's other areas that we are looking at. I got a list of all of the churches in Dunn County. It's a really long list. And so I would have to find like emails or some way to get in touch with them. But just thinking about places that we can get this posted to allow people to see it and scan that QR code.
Dan, did you say you could add veterans on the online survey?
Yes, I did add veterans to the online survey. Sorry.
Cool.
So there's a simple question is there a veteran that lives in the residence? It's in the, do you want to are you willing to answer additional questions?
Oh, okay.
So kind of page 2 of that. Yep.
And what's the deadline now for having the survey completed?
I think we'd go with that same deadline of, you'll work to evaluate the survey results will begin after Memorial Day. So June 1st, I think is when we kind of picked, but
okay.
Not a hard deadline, but yeah, we might start evaluating materials ahead of time or at that time. And hopefully I don't get 5,000 postcards back, although that would be great. But if I did, then I'm going to need help in translating all of that into the
That'd be 100.
deal. Right? That'd be
Be
an
a great
amazing.
survey.
So,
Oh,
so. Yes, any questions about that you have, feel free to email me, or well, feel free to say anything now or send me an email. I can willing to help in any way to get that out. So and then yes, if you can get that out to your, I'll send that email. And is it helpful if I just kind of write something and you can just kind of rewrite it, or do you just want me to send the materials?
I guess, and what are you asking?
So like with the last email I sent, I just kind of wrote up something so that you could just forward it, essentially. Or I can just provide you these materials and you can kind of send your own email to everybody and ask them what you want.
I mean, if you feel like doing that, and just everybody can have the option of whether they want to write it or put their own spin on it and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I just want to make it easy for anybody to be able to send it out. That's my thing. And I don't know, it takes me really long to write emails like that too, though, because I overthink them. So
Imagine that.
so, all right. Well, I will do that. I will try and get something out tomorrow to do that. All right. Before I kind of move on to the next section, any questions? All right. So our next item on here, and kind of the next takeaway for the committee, is to create goals. And I think I had mentioned this before, that I was struggling with kind of maybe the terminology or the scope of what we want to do. And so this is kind of where I've come to is I focused down. I was, all right, we are going to create a plan. What's a plan? So below there, you can kind of see a definition of what a plan is. And what I found interesting is ultimately a plan is a way that you would meet your goal. So it's kind of odd to have goals within a plan when a plan is intended to solve a goal. So I just wanted to kind of focus as we talk about building goals, is that, I guess, to me, and this is all up to debate, our ultimate goal is our vision. So ultimately what we want to see, everybody in Dunn County having broadband is the goal. But it's a very big goal. So in order to eat that particular elephant, is one bite at a time is how that goes. So kind of we need to set smaller, more attainable goals, and that set of goals will be our plan. And then there will be a plan for each of the goals. So did I confuse everybody with that whole concept? And ultimately we would have a broadband plan that will have multiple goals and sub plans in order to meet our vision. I confuse myself in that, although I know what I'm trying to say. So ultimately, as we move on to the next step of creating goals, our intent is to solve the problem of getting internet for everyone in Dunn County. So I was looking through some things, and I kind of settled on starting with the fishbone diagram. If you're not familiar, It's a kind of a pretty easy diagram to digest and to share and to work on as a group. Can everybody see that? So it gets its name because it looks like a fishbone. And over on the right here, we have our ultimate goal is that, or the problem, that residents are not connected to high-speed internet. So as we kind of go through and look at what our goals are, we have these categories and then we have different causes. And so it's just identifying and kind of breaking down that problem into the different areas. So, and I guess this is kind of that brainstorming session of, all right, so what are the different things that we need to do in order to get to essentially the root of the problem? So I start that out with connectivity is one of the reasons that people don't have internet in Dunn County.
You don't, before we get into it too deep, I'm just looking at it and going, well, I almost wonder if we have to flip this around. Do we want this to get to pointing to what I guess you could do it two ways. You could have it what our ultimate goal is, all the things that lead into the problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I mean yes.
So,
Dan,
are these generic goals?
we'll get to that, Terry.
Okay.
Yeah. I think right now it's just kind of let's look at, you know, why would somebody not be connected to the internet?
Okay.
Right. And then when we understand all of the whys, then we can create that goal of how we solve that why.
Okay.
And that's where we'll get into, because that you were going for SMART goals there, right?
No, I was going for one of the reasons we're all together today is because of the money at the federal level. And that's what I meant generic. This would fit any kind of broadband funding, or is the reason this is coming because of this BEAD program that's coming up? In other words, we had to have a money source before we even started to worry about goals. The goals, I would think, would be part of how we organize at the county level to attain grants or whatever. What made this task force to be created?
So I think that the funding that is available was certainly a driver.
Yes.
But I would say that it's more important that we, from the county government perspective, that we want to come up with what our goals would be to how can the county government help in doing this? Does that kind of answer what you're?
Well, if I call this a one size fits all, in other words, the purpose of the task force, is this how what we set up here, is that going to set the standard of how Dunn County pursues in the future monies?
Yes.
Okay.
This would drive how Dunn County might use Dunn County funds for broadband, or how Dunn County advocates for state funds to be spent.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah, because in a way that can be tied into the directional planning the county has that was created in March of 2016.
Right. Which had at its root broadband.
Yep. That was added after the original one
Yep. So
on the implementation.
yes. Yeah. So I think that's part of that, that it, broadband, it's been stated, is something that the Dunn County Board of Supervisors feels strongly about. But it's one thing to feel strongly, it's another thing to come up with a way that we are going to do something about it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're going at here.
Yeah. That was actually resolution 58.
Yep. It's on the website.
Yep.
Yes. So, what are the so the way that this kind of works, so I put this up in this section, I put connectivity, right? So connectivity is not, or the lack of connectivity is one of the reasons why residents would not be connected to high-speed internet. And maybe connectivity is a little too broad. Um, that they don't have access. Essentially, they don't have the ability to connect to high-speed internet. So,
Well, it's the ability that gets into connectivity. They don't have the ability to connect to high-speed broadband, or another cause is the lack of access, is they don't want to, connect to high-speed internet for whatever reason. I'm not going to use it because I'm cranky and old. So, that fits into that access too. There are people that have access to high-speed internet who choose not to connect because they don't need it or don't want it for whatever reason, or choose not to connect because it's not affordable.
You're right, because I have a resident right on County M, just a little bit of ways from me, and she said that costs too much. Costs
Yep.
too much.
So yeah, so that affordability can be one of those components as well. Um, yeah, or don't know how to connect, just might be not use fits into that, but don't know how to connect would be one of them. Another one, I don't know that where that would fit into that. Some people don't know that it's available because either someone hasn't done a good job of making them aware. I don't know who wouldn't, but it's possible. And that could be a cause under one of those main headings too. Don't know it's available. Because it could be that it was available, it was not available in the past. It's now available and they don't know that fact for whatever reason.
yep. Yeah, so I put that as a cause of the don't know how to connect.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we can get into some of these, and ultimately, as you see, right, these become some of that. When you identify the cause, the reason why somebody doesn't have access, that's easier to write a goal to solve that particular cause.
And this is bugging me because I'm just about punctuation. Please put a space after the problem : residents. It's just bugging me.
Yeah, we wouldn't get along very well, Jim. I'm terrible with punctuation.
I know you are. Every time I see things, I go, "Oh, Dan, you're killing me."
Well, another
I'm surprised
cause,
Leanne
Dan,
didn't speak up. So
another cause, Dan, as you explained earlier, uh, basing broadband on census districts. If you remember, like you said, these ISPs could hook up one person and they'd say the whole census district is connected.
Yeah.
That's been huge for years.
Well, yeah, and I think that's impacted the essentially how the grants were awarded, because that's
Yeah.
part of the eligibility data.
Yeah. It was completely false, the data, except for maybe one household or business.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put that under no provider available. I'm gonna say part of the cause there is bad maps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also under those causes, I might fit in there is lack of household, lack of subscribers as a cause why there's no network provider. That's definitely a big cause of that, is that it hasn't been profitable for providers to serve certain areas. So
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna kind of come into that same. I'm gonna go under affordability and say lack of competition. I don't spell is about as bad as I don't punctuate, so let me know when those come up.
We'll give you help.
I was counting on Leanne being the newspaper person and
Mm.
an author.
Right.
I'm sure Leanne can help us too.
He's going, all right, I have to do that in my day job. I'm not gonna police Dan on his charts.
Right. Nothing better than typing live during a meeting that's being recorded for the public.
So don't know how to connect. I think that's supposed to be don't know it's available as opposed to do know it's available. Don't has an apostrophe in it, just
Yeah, I was gonna do that one.
but also I don't know how you want to phrase it, but education, not technically skilled to connect to the internet. However you want to phrase that, but that's some people don't want to ask when they don't know something. They want to sound stupid. So however we want to phrase that as a reason, don't know how to connect to the internet.
No.
Lack of digital knowledge, transparency. It's part of the big grant.
It can just be technically challenged too.
Yeah, right.
I was just thinking the same thing.
It
That's what
doesn't mean
most
people
people
learn.
no, but that's some people when I've had to help them with some of the website stuff I'm working on or whatever, they'll just say, well, I'm technically challenged. And so
Oh yeah.
know how
Yeah.
to help them through, and that everybody understands that term too.
At the university, we call that holding your hand.
I'm not certain if this would fit in under don't know how to connect, but perhaps another category is that they don't have a device to utilize to connect to broadband.
Good point.
Yeah, I put that as a category, and curious as I look at like not interested and don't know how to connect in that device and how they're somewhat interrelated, but yeah, it certainly is a thing that is important and affordability, right? So
Yep.
I wonder in affordability, there are a lot of like grants or assistance available, but I think a lot of people are unaware of that. So maybe unaware of assistance.
And that assistance, I think I looked at the current FCC. I think it's an FCC program where you can get funding to offset your monthly internet bill, and it's a, I guess, a stereotypical government application in that it's fairly obtuse and not easy to apply.
And some of those count, like if you apply it to your phone, then you can't get it for wired internet.
Yeah.
But a lot of the providers also have their own versions of assistance that I think people are unaware of too.
yes, I was actually just watching a video stream with Mosaic, and they were talking about the program. They have their own program independent of the government one. So
So does Bloomer Broadband.
Charter does as well, or Spectrum.
yeah, so all right.
Maybe who to contact. I mean, if people are unaware of the companies that
Yeah.
provide the access. Might be a problem.
I'm gonna put this in. We talked about it last time. And that is the upfront. Sorry, I'm probably going technical there, but the upfront lateral cost, which is essentially paying for that fiber to get from the road to your house. Actually had an employee who just got contacted about it earlier this week. So it's a thing, right? And
Well, it goes under affordable too.
yes. Yeah, probably a better place for it.
Maybe even more so.
Yep.
I don't know what to put under the cause for not interested. There's no cause to that. It's just a fact, I guess. It's like you're not interested because you're not.
Yeah. Well, I think, and I was struggling as you were doing the technically challenged, is that a piece of that, right? Is education, is it not interested because you don't understand the value?
Well, to some people, there is no value. There's going to be there are going to be some people where I don't know who they are, but there are going to be some people that just, I don't need it,
Right.
They are kind of set in their ways, and they haven't had it up to this point, and they don't want to add it to. They don't want to figure it out. They don't want to buy anything new. They don't want it.
Right.
I
Their
wonder
house.
if not interested is more of a cause under don't know how to connect.
Sure. That can work for me. Maybe they don't know how isn't necessarily the right phrasing there, but I think in the general concept, yeah. Put that there.
It can be both a cause and it can be its own category, really.
Yeah.
I think that's the case. And there's probably no causes to that. It's just a fact. I mean, there could be, there could be the educational component, meaning that they're not interested because they don't know the benefits of it, as a potential cause. But there are some people that may know all those benefits, and to them it's not a benefit. So I just think that's a small category, but it exists.
Right. And I guess it's, at this point, we're
And we're talking about broadband too. They may have they may have an internet access that's just really horrible.
Yep.
They're for what they do, which is sending email and things like that, that might suffice.
Right. Yep. And that's, and I guess my counter to that, and it's not as we brainstorm, I shouldn't really counter, but it's, someone that's not interested, if they own a home, that home is theoretically has better resale if they're connected.
I'm never selling my home. Get away from me. So you could actually put like for a cause under not interested, existing low speed internet is fine, or however you want to phrase that.
Well, my father and mother-in-law lived right in Mauston, and the most they ever got technically is cable TV.
Yeah.
And they want nothing to do with the other stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, there are going to be those people. They don't care about resale value. They don't understand it enough.
No.
And like you said, not interested. Another cause of that is don't understand the benefits. Yeah, don't understand the benefits. It would be another potential cause.
Like I say, it's more of just a brainstorming exercise as we get to goals, right? And I don't know, is there more thoughts, or do we want to kind of move towards that? So, I mean, as I look at that, these areas in blue become kind of the basis for 5 goals.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a matter of how do we wordsmith those particular areas to say, what are we going to do about this? And some of those causes then are, what are we going to, so there is a problem of no net, or some people don't have a network provider, and that is because there's a low density populations and bad maps and other things like that. So what actions are we going to take in order to solve that?
One more thing for under no network provider would be, and again, how you ever want to phrase this, would be geographical or terrain limitations.
Yep.
Such as, rivers, rock. There's plenty of rocky soil, like, well, just south of Colfax, you got that massive sandstone thing, and there are other areas that have similar types of geographic restrictions. It's like, yeah, there's plenty of people we could serve there, but we're gonna have to string or string lines as opposed to bury the fiber optic. So that's a consideration.
Right.
Could that be physical terrain?
Yeah, exactly. Geographical include like physical terrain and
Yeah.
And environmental.
and other things like the difficulty in crossing a bridge and the challenges with that, challenges of going under a railroad track, and which is another can of worms.
Yep. All right. So
And put a hyphen under for don't understand benefits, because it's bugging me by not interested. Down to your right. No, keep going down to your right. Don't understand benefits. Yep, there.
I missed that apostrophe even after you warned me the one time. Okay. All right.
I mean, I would actually even go so far as to say the railroad would be its own special problem.
Yeah.
As far as being incredibly difficult to work with and get around.
Yep. Yeah, it almost comes into just needing a different provider to come in from a different direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, if
It
anybody
was
wondering
a
why,
piece of cake. Piece
Yeah.
of cake, County M. Where 40 and M meet
yeah,
going south. Yeah. Both the subcontractors, all I did is what they plow. It's a machine that actually pushes right in the ground and you can steer the end of it. They had no trouble at all.
Hmm.
Even with the 18-mile creek there.
Right. The struggle isn't that the technology doesn't exist to get to the side of
Yeah.
the road. It's
just the physical obstructions that
the paperwork and agreement with
yeah.
railroads to do that. I mean, that's one of the larger costs of burying fiber is the permitting and other items like that need to be done. The time it takes to do that and the costs.
well, if you're wondering why County Road B is delayed for a year, that's why.
I was just thinking that.
Yep. And so yeah, there's a lot to that. All right. So moving on. So I'm gonna kind of go over. So we kind of looked at kind of the basis of 5 goals. Or 5 kind of main areas here. I want to kind of focus on is there one anybody wants to focus on first? Whether it's the affordability, the not interested, that don't know how to connect, don't have a device.
Well, because it could be challenging, we could focus on, at least to get started with, not interested. It's like, how do you address that? I mean, how do you communicate the benefits?
So
How do you get someone to change their mind that they're not interested?
Right.
I mean, Terry, you talked about your folks that they were happy with, like, having the cable was enough for them.
Exact.
And you're someone who's like in that kind of mindset. Is it, well, let me back it up. Is it even worth taking our time and energy to work on trying to solve that problem that they're not interested, because that's pretty, someone's set in their ways. Is there any point in doing that?
Well,
That should be like, if
Yeah.
we prioritize those, the things on that chart, does that go at the bottom? Because that's going to be a tougher lift.
but
So-
if it's easy to get to, I know Bloomer Broadband did it. They put a stub out there anyway, whether the person wants to get it or not. Well, I can see it's easier for them to do it when they're doing it than to come back and have to try to do it later on. So a lot of ISPs have caught on to this already.
It really varies from ISP to ISP. For example, my fiance lives in Baldwin, and I think in Baldwin Telecom now calls itself Lightstream over there, and they ran fiber up to her house right after she didn't ask me, and she went with a satellite provider for some reason, and because she didn't hook up to Lightstream when they brought it, the box is on the house, but they will not run it into the house. She has to hire an electrician or a contractor to actually just put it in the house. Lightstream gets some of the, read their Google reviews sometime, and you'll be, it's interesting reading how horrible their customer service is. So, which is really odd for a telco, a local cooperative to get such horrible reviews. But yeah, that factor in, kudos to Bloomer for, running everything up and doing that. But then it's that little final connection sometimes that is going to be the stumbling block.
Yeah.
Well, it makes business sense.
Right.
Well, you got the crew there.
Yes, right. Exactly.
That person might not live there forever,
Yep. So getting back to those,
So
those goals, it might be that that the people who are not interested should be probably one of the last things that we try to address.
right. But I guess, and I liked your recommendation of just picking that one, because with, limited time left in our meeting, maybe we can, ultimately, so this was kind of the next screen I had for kind of writing that goal. And I think you're right, Jim. I think the priority is low, but that doesn't mean that we can't say that this is what we're going to do.
Yeah, right.
This is, we want to provide so sorry, I don't want to get ahead of myself. So if you haven't heard about the concept of a SMART goal, these are kind of some of the attributes. If you look at the first 5, it actually spells out the word SMART. And that's where it comes from. So specific, so it kind of defines something that we're going to do that is measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound, meaning you give yourself a deadline. So, and that's where kind of our vision isn't a goal, because it is, maybe probably not necessarily obtainable. It doesn't say when we are going to do that by. It doesn't say specifically, what it is that we're going to do or anything like that. So as we do write these goals, just kind of having those attributes in mind, and I'll try and wrangle in getting some answers to some of those things. And then the other part that I put down on the end is recommending who should be responsible, right? So ultimately, the deliverable here is kind of this plan that we provide the the board. And that might say, for this particular instance, you know, we want to do X, Y, and Z, and we're saying that that should be done by the Human Services Department of Dunn County, or that should be done by UW Extension, or, you know, just kind of recommending who we think should be doing those sorts of things.
Well, I think that would be should be done by Dan Dunbar.
You know, you can say that. We might have to have a discussion about hiring some help, but yeah. So anyway, that was just, I wanted to put that out there as we kind of move on to ultimately writing a goal for the people that are not interested.
Yeah.
And that is, so what are we going to do in order to make the uninterested interested? Understanding that that might be a fool's errand, but you know, what is a specific measurable thing that we could do in order to get people interested?
Well, don't understand the benefits, so you need to educate them about those benefits. You can't really address existing connectivity works, because if it works, it works.
Mm-hmm.
Unless part of that is you show them, they may think it works, you know, yeah, it takes 5 minutes to download my email messages, but you know, isn't that the same for everybody? And maybe show them how their existing connectivity doesn't work. Some people it does, but it's, you know, but again, it's all coming down to education. So it's, don't understand the benefits. So education about those benefits. What are the benefits of having high speed internet as opposed to your existing low speed connection?
Yeah, but Jim, earlier you said it right. There are people that just don't want it.
Yep.
And thanks to many, many years ago, they have a telephone line there, but they just don't want it. It's not in their priorities.
I don't think training's going to work, because if I'm not interested, I'm not going to go to training because I'm not interested. I'm not going to sign up for that kind of stuff. It almost has to be sort of passive, that education, and that can be through it could be through like media pieces, like you know, I'm not volunteering, Leanne. I'm just using this as an example. You know, a piece on just a general piece in the newspaper on the benefits of broadband versus regular internet.
Like maybe some posters at the libraries.
Yeah, that type of thing. It can't be, if you say you're going to have training, I'm not going to go to that if I don't care, if I'm not interested. It has to be some sort of passive way of learning. Could be like, it could be even like I don't want to say like a newsletter, but something that shows up in the mail that explains some stuff, whether they would read it. Yeah, passive awareness efforts.
Yeah, like just pamphlets or maybe even just a postcard.
Yep. And, you know, some of those big thing, outlining some of those things like home resale value is a big thing. Some people are going to want to sell their house at some point, and outlining those types of things.
I know in Colfax, I don't know if the school has a computer lab, but
I don't think
libraries are a great resource. But I know, I think the library in Colfax, I don't think they have 10 computers, that probably 6 or something like that.
I don't even think it's that many.
It's
Yeah,
3.
because,
Yeah, I thought it was 3.
oh, okay, because they want to expand into the basement, and I think they talked about having more computers. But you're limited. It's not like a university.
Yeah.
Oh. So, all right. So I have to see if I met all of my SMART goals here. I think we didn't, like I said, so I guess I do feel like this probably hits all of them. And yeah, and I think it is exactly what you're talking about. It's maybe an advertisement, maybe a, you know, a poster at the fair, something that they walk by at their church or wherever it is that they are that says, oh, I didn't think about that.
You
They
know,
could do
they could
on,
send Dan Dunbar door to door to each of the people we've identified who are not interested in internet. And you could personally tell them about them.
Right.
would you want to put promoting real estate resale values?
Yeah.
Real estate?
Real estate resale.
Yeah.
Restate.
REAL.
I think the spell checker got me there.
So I was wondering, do you want to make it broader? It's an economic impact.
I think Addison's trying to say something, but I have no idea what it is.
No, I don't either.
All right. Yeah, it's Addison. You were cutting in and out. If you get to a good, oh, he's drawing on our screen.
Oh, how about that?
All right. And then I guess so like I say, I think there's lots of different ways of doing that. And then is there a good group that we should look at in either the Dunn County government or just in general that we should advocate for that work to be done?
Well, isn't part of this BEAD grant, you know, does that create some resources for doing that?
Yes. So
Yeah.
that the accessibility component of it, I got to go back to my definitions. The Digital Equity Act portion of it,
Yeah,
I think would do that. And that's something, you know, so we haven't seen where that funding or how that funding is going to be dispersed. And I think it's, we know from past and how they've explained that a lot of the like getting fiber in the ground is going to be service providers applying for grants. As it relates to the digital equity portions of it, we don't know how those funds are going to be distributed yet.
Yeah.
So that, I guess, to that point, that might be that a county agency or some other group somewhere needs to be the one that applies for a grant to be able to do that. And so I think as we kind of, and this is as I look at proposing this or to the county board as a plan, is to say, you are setting a goal for this and you are going to declare that that UW Extension is going to be responsible for completing this goal. Which may end up
And specifically, Addison will be the one doing.
right.
He can't.
Speaking of Addison, he did put a comment in the chat that he was on this goal as he was drawing. He's asking if we want this to be broader instead of just focusing on real estate, looking at economic impact as a whole.
Well, but the problem with that, as I was thinking about that, I was going to bring that up too, that if you focus on, again, we're kind of addressing the problem with someone who's not interested.
Right.
And that person who's not interested probably doesn't care about the economic impact. It's like, it gets back to like when you're doing any sort of marketing. What's in it for me? What's in it for me? I don't care about economic marketing or development, but I do care about my home resale value being higher. I do care whether I can, do telehealth instead of driving to Eau Claire to go to the hospital to meet with a doctor. I do care about family. And I guess, I can't think of too many businesses who would say I'm not interested in broadband, but I guess that could be another point to kind of address what Addison was saying and have it a separate point under connectivity to family be enhancing my business or in something along those lines where it's I'm losing out on customers. Again, what's in it for me to connect because I'm not interested. So that's what we need to be addressing for those folks. The general economic health or impact more broadly on the county can fit in other areas, but it doesn't fit so much under the I'm not interested. And perhaps when Dan and Addison go door to door and talk to these people, they'll get a little bit more feedback from them. Like how
Well, I can tell you at several past meetings of the West Central Regional Broadband Alliance, they had a young lady there, and she actually belonged to United Way in Eau Claire.
Mhm.
And her assignment was going to be how to figure out this digital teaching or whatever, that part of the BEAD Act. So Eau Claire County has her for a resource. So I don't know if anybody else has, but she was specifically from United Way.
Huh.
Yep. Yes. Yeah. And I guess that's kind of like to my point of, who should be doing this? And obviously, it doesn't mean that we put United Way in here. Obviously, we need to have United Way's agreement, but it also may be that, part of the plan when the plan is adopted by the county is essentially saying, we're going to have the United Way do this. We may have to pay them in order to do that.
But the thing is, I just used the United Way as
Yep.
an example. I imagine there's a whole bunch of organizations out there could step up the plate if they wanted to,
Right.
as far as this digital equity or whatever they call it.
Yeah, especially if there was some funding out of it that would go towards that.
There is too.
Yeah.
So, so
I get to the point where, like, you mentioned a couple times, Dan, that, who does that? Is it an agency in the county? Is it extension? And I think that it will get to the point where all of those departments and extension are already focused and busy with things. It may be that, okay, once we determine how much of that money is available for this, somebody needs to be brought on in a part-time basis or through an agency like United Way or some other outreach agency that can spearhead that, and that's their function, and they get some funding in order to be able to do that. And maybe it's someone that funding goes toward paying somebody who's like an organizer, and then they recruit volunteers who can then talk to people. So
It could be CVTC. They have labs.
Yes, we definitely do. I can't volunteer us for anything at this point in time, but we do have labs.
Holly, we're going to volunteer you to go door to door and talk to these people. So
Let me think about that.
yeah, I think that's a good
Yeah.
good way to deal with that.
right. And like I say, I don't want to. It'd be really easy for us to just write a plan, and then if we don't define who's going to do it, it's either going to be me or it's not getting done. And
And you have too much stuff to do. So
and yeah, I say, and I'm not opposed. There's certain areas that I can do these things, but
Yeah, but
yeah,
it's been my experience that older people, they can't just read an instruction. It's almost like they need to have hands-on and see what they can do, what it feels like, what it looks like. It's probably the number one training. One-on-one is probably the most focused training.
yep.
And
Also the most labor intensive too.
it's
But it is vital. You hit the nail on the head. It's true.
because if they can't do it and make a mistake and then show them where they made their mistake, it's the most.
It gets into, it's like people don't want to. They feel intimidated. They don't want to ask. But Terry, you
Exactly.
probably encountered people that, it's like, okay, let me show you how this works. And then there's like that light bulb moment. Wow, that is cool. What do you mean I can actually talk to my grandkids and
Yeah.
see their faces, even though they live in California? That and for many people it's like, okay, let's make this work right here. And I know it's possible. I have to say, I was during the pandemic, I was shocked and pleasantly surprised that you had every supervisor on Zoom during meetings, no matter their age or ability. They got talked through it enough that they were able to function on Zoom. And when many of these folks maybe hadn't even spent much time on a computer prior to that. So if my fellow supervisors can learn that, it really takes, like Terry said, that hands-on effort to do that.
yeah, no, and that's
I learned a long time ago at Stout. It depends on your necessity. Because after we had new computers and everything else. It was funny how soon that screensavers came up with pictures of the grandkids
Sure.
and everything else under the sun, dogs.
Mhm.
Yep. Well, and when we saw it too, and I know you were obviously there for it as well, Terry, at Stout, as they went to a laptop campus and
Yeah.
transition of that campus for when every student had a laptop.
Yeah.
And we started to see it, well, we really saw it when the pandemic hit, and every school was trying to figure out how to get devices for everybody and how they were going to do all of these things. And we had been doing it for 15, 16 years, 18, well, it was 20 years at that point. So, yeah. So,
It's humid.
so it's, sometimes you don't realize it. So, so I will get things ready. So I think we did pretty good in setting goal number 1. I started kind of that PowerPoint for goal number 2. We have.
And take your, your fish slide thing and maybe before our goals, paste the whole thing.
Yep.
Not now, but later,
Yep.
paste that whole thing in there so we can kind of reference back to it.
Yep, I'll do that. I'm on a tiny screen on my monitor right now, so I had to put those. But so yeah, so I will get that together, and we will start working on those other goals in our next meeting. Like I say, we have 11 minutes left. We could start on another goal, but we could also end up making the meeting go long. So
But I back Jim's opinion. When you don't want to paste it with a broad brush, at some point you got to get down towards the specifics.
Yep.
So people know what you're talking about.
Yep.
Because you can get caught up in the big picture and keep swirling around and not getting anywhere.
Right. And that's where I do think, even as I look at some of these bigger goals here, that we may need to do 2 or 3 goals inside of don't know how to connect, right? There may be multiple things that we want to do or accomplish. So
Well, that's why I'm looking forward to the survey results.
yes.
Because
Oh, yeah.
you can't, it's going to be.
Right. I'm looking forward and also partially terrified. So,
Well, one example, I forget which document I saw. The reason it was a nurse somewhere. I don't know if it was up north or not, but she was going to be a telehealth nurse, and her internet connection was terrible. So, I mean, these things, the needs come out of nowhere.
yep. Yep. There's, see, there's, you don't know what you are missing really until you get there. I think just even some personal security items are things that you don't think about. Like if you walk in front of my house, you're going to be on camera, right? I know when the Amazon guy shows up. I also know when a stranger comes up to my house and my kids are in it. And those are things that maybe you didn't think that you needed, but when you have that connectivity, you have the ability to do that.
Yeah, I didn't know that was your house. I was just walking past, man. That was it.
There's a bike trail nearby. So, all right. I guess with that, we will adjourn unless there's anything anybody wants to talk about. We will meet again next Thursday, the 11th at 1:00, and we'll get those invites sent out to everyone. in the meantime, I will send a copy of that fishbone graphic to everybody so that you can, if you do have some time, you can maybe start crafting some ideas and bring them. Please don't share them outside of the meeting, but you can have your own internal thoughts until the next meeting. All right. With that, unless anybody has anything to say, I'm going to stop the recording.
Sounds good.